My sister used to challenge me on this all the time. Janet, why do you think God speaks to you? Because he doesn't speak to me. And she wasn't doubting God, she was doubting herself and maybe doubting me a little bit too. And honestly, it's one of the most common questions that I hear from people of faith. Why does God seem to speak to some people and not others? So today I want to answer that question. And I'm going to tell you what finally happened to my sister after years of searching. And if you like this content and you enjoy listening to my little episodes of Seek the Spirit, please subscribe so that you won't miss an episode when I come here every Tuesday. Okay, so let's get back to the story about my sister. Years ago, I was at a women's retreat when my life looked successful on the outside, but felt completely purposeless on the inside. And during a guided meditation, I heard a voice say clearly to me, "Come back to Jesus." 3 days later, I was driving on a Sunday afternoon when a woman was being interviewed on the radio. And all of a sudden, she was talking about her life. And she said, all roads led back to Jesus. And then she mentioned that she ran a spiritual school, and it was just a few towns away from me. So that next Tuesday, I walked through that door, and that was it. I was on a spiritual path. So do you think that was a coincidence? Because I don't. I think God had said exactly what he had intended to come back to Jesus, and then he showed me the path on how to do it. So Jesus says in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." He didn't say some of my sheep. He said my sheep. Hearing God is not reserved for the select few. So why do so many people feel like they don't hear him or they can't hear him? Well, in my experience, it comes down to three things. One, we are obviously too busy. The world is too noisy, and we are focused on what we expect his voice to sound like. And God rarely announces himself from within a burning bush. He speaks subtly in ways that we can't explain. A voice on the radio at just the right moment, an opportunity that keeps presenting itself like a door you finally walk through. St. Thomas Aquinas called it the great circle of being. Exit and return, exit and return. Every restlessness is an exit ramp. It's not a dead end. It's just an invitation to go in another direction. So back to my sister. She and I walked this spiritual path together for years. Last week, I shared how we went to AA together. Then she came with me when I attended that spiritual school. She was on that retreat with me, and we attended services, meditations, Bible studies together. But here is something that I didn't even really see until recently. The first time God spoke to me was through her, when she casually suggested that we go to an AA meeting together. She didn't know it then, but I didn't know it either. But it was an invitation to get me on the path back to Jesus. So she went through all these motions alongside me for years, but she would tell you honestly that I never heard God speak to me. I don't know why Janet did. But one day, a few years ago, I decided to return to my Catholic roots, and I started to attend Mass every single day. It wasn't something that I was called to do, it was something I was called to do, but it wasn't something that I was called to include her in doing. And so just watching me do it, I think that it made her start to wonder, well, what does she know that I don't? What is there for her there that I don't know about and that she finds so compelling? So she didn't understand, but I think that curiosity planted a seed. So about 2 years ago, she was out walking on an ordinary summer day down the street she walked on every single day. And as she passed the Catholic Church, which she passed every single day, she had no intention of entering it until she heard a voice telling her to go inside. And she went in. And from that minute, everything changed. She still marvels at it. She hadn't been in a Catholic church in years. And after all those years of searching for God, he called her on the most ordinary day, on the most ordinary street, to do something that was so totally unexpected in the moment. But that's how it works sometimes. She now literally attends daily mass. And God didn't forget her. He just had his own timing. And it was the right timing for her, obviously. So it turns out that we had been planting seeds within each other all along, which I just find this so interesting. So if you feel like God is not speaking to you, I want to suggest something to you, because he may be already speaking to you. He may just not have done it in the way you were expecting. So how do you hear him? Well, maybe ask him to speak to you. Just, what you ask for, you receive. Maybe turn down the volume of everything else that you're letting come into your life, all that noise, because sometimes that's how you hear God, in the stillness. Take a walk. What would it look like to get a little quiet this week? Not a major overhaul, just a little more stillness, a little more space, a little more praying. And maybe that voice is already there, and maybe there's an opportunity that's open for you. So we just have to get quiet enough to hear it. So keep ascending. And please subscribe to the channel so that more and more people will hear these messages, and also so that you won't miss next Tuesday when I come live again. And I do send out my newsletter every single week called the Heavenly Treasures Weekly, and I would love for you to sign up for that. It's a free newsletter where we talk about faith and wellness, prosperity, all kinds of good things that make us feel like we have vibrant, healthy spiritual lives, and healthy and happy physical lives as well. So I will see you next Tuesday. Bye for now.